Captain Jinwoo gripped the command chair as alarms screamed across the bridge of the horizon's edge. The ship's hull groaned under the sudden gravitational pull of three colossal vessels that had appeared from nowhere, each one dwarfing Earth's largest space stations. "Captain, they just tore through hyperspace like it was paper," shouted Navigator Dongmin from his station. "Our sensors went crazy for a split second, then these things were just here." The bridge crew stared in awe at the alien ships through the main viewport. The central vessel stretched for kilometers, its surface rippling with liquid metal that seemed alive. Geometric patterns of pure light danced across its hull, pulsing in rhythm like a massive heartbeat. The two flanking ships were equally impressive, but different in design. One appeared to be carved from a single crystalline structure that bent light around itself, while the other seemed to phase in and out of reality, occasionally becoming translucent. "By the stars," whispered Communications Officer So Young, her fingers dancing over her console. "Captain, they're broadcasting on frequencies we didn't even know existed. Whatever they're using, it's beyond our current technology." Dr. Minho, the ship's chief science officer, was practically vibrating with excitement as data flowed across his screens. "Jinwoo, look at these readings. The energy output from just one of those ships could power all of Korea for a century. But the patterns, they're not random. There's a mathematical precision to everything they're doing." The space around the human vessel began to shimmer, and suddenly a towering holographic figure materialized in the center of the bridge. The being was humanoid, but stretched impossibly tall, with skin that seemed to be made of flowing starlight. Energy crackled around its form like controlled lightning, and its eyes burned with the intensity of twin suns. "Mortals of the species called human," the figure spoke, its voice reverberating not just through the air but somehow directly into their minds. "I am Nexus Prime, first speaker of the Celestial Dominion. For 10,000 of your years, we have ruled this galaxy as its rightful gods." Tactical Officer Jae-sung's hand moved instinctively toward the weapons console, but Jinwoo raised a hand to stop him. The captain's calm demeanor never wavered, even as the alien's presence filled the bridge with an almost overwhelming sense of power. "We are the Nexari," Nexus Prime continued, gesturing toward the liquid metal ship, "masters of energy itself. We command the very forces that bind atoms together." As if to demonstrate, the alien ship's hull suddenly erupted with brilliant plasma streams that danced through space in perfect spirals. A second hologram appeared, this one seemingly carved from living crystal that refracted light in impossible ways. "I am Vorthak Supreme. We bend reality to our will, reshape the fabric of space and time as mortals might mold clay." The crystalline ship beside them suddenly folded in on itself, becoming a perfect sphere, then expanded back to its original form without any apparent transition. The third hologram was the most unsettling, an ancient being whose form seemed to exist in multiple time streams simultaneously. "I am the Eternal Hierarch. We see all possible futures, all paths through time. What has been, what is, and what will be, all are known to us." As it spoke, the third ship flickered through different configurations, as if cycling through various potential designs. "You will now submit to our authority," Nexus Prime declared, his voice booming with divine command. "So you will worship us as your gods, provide tribute from your worlds, and serve the Celestial Dominion as countless species have done before you." The bridge fell silent for a moment. Jinwoo could feel his crew looking to him for guidance. In the stories and films of old Earth, this would be the moment when humanity cowered before superior beings, accepting their fate as subjects of cosmic gods. Instead, Jinwoo stepped forward with genuine curiosity in his eyes. "That's absolutely fascinating," he said, his voice filled with wonder rather than fear. "Your technology is incredible. Could you show us more of how these abilities work? Our scientists would love to understand the principles behind what you're doing." The three alien figures exchanged glances that somehow conveyed thousands of years of shared experience. Never in their long reign had they encountered a species that responded to divine proclamation with scientific interest. Dr. Minho moved to stand beside his captain, his scanner in hand. "The energy manipulation you demonstrated, it appears to follow quantum field dynamics. but at a scale we've never seen implemented. And that space-folding technique, are you using dimensional membrane displacement? Chief Engineer Hai Jin joined. Them, her eyes bright with excitement. Captain, their energy patterns are following predictable mathematical sequences. This isn't magic. It's just really, really advanced science. Nexus Prime's confident expression began to waver. You dare question the nature of divine power? We're not questioning anything, Jinwoo replied with a friendly smile. We're trying to learn. On Earth we have a saying, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic, but that doesn't make it actually magic. It just makes it something we don't understand yet. So Young looked up from her communications array. Captain, I'm detecting standard electromagnetic signatures underneath all the flashy effects. Whatever they're doing, it's still following the laws of physics. The three god beings stood frozen, unsure how to process this unprecedented response. For millennia, their power had rested on the awe and fear their demonstrations inspired. No species had ever treated their divine displays as interesting physics experiments. Jin Woo extended his hand in the universal human gesture of friendship. We're explorers and scientists from Earth. We'd be honored to learn from you and share what we know in return. After all, the universe is vast enough for all of us to discover its secrets together. The silence that followed would echo across the galaxy, marking the beginning of the end for false gods. 3 weeks had passed since the first encounter, and the human research station orbiting the gas giant Kepler 442b buzzed with activity day and night. Dr. Minho had barely slept, his team of scientists working in shifts to analyze every scrap of data they'd collected from the celestial dominion. "Pass me that quantum resonance scanner," called out Dr. Yoon Seo from across the lab, her hair disheveled from hours of intense work. "I think I've found something incredible in these energy signatures." The research bay looked like organized chaos. Holographic displays showed complex mathematical equations floating in midair, while alien artifacts lay partially disassembled on workbenches. The soft hum of quantum computers filled the air as they processed terabytes of data every second. Minho stared at his main display, shaking his head in amazement. "Look at this, everyone. The Nexari's energy manipulation. It's not some mystical force. They're using controlled antimatter reactions channeled through crystalline matrices. It's brilliant engineering, but it's still just engineering." Communications. Officer So Young burst into the lab, her face flushed with excitement. "Dr. Minho, you need to see this immediately. I've been monitoring Dominion communications for the past week, and I've cracked their encryption." She activated a holographic display showing wave patterns and frequency analyses. Their so-called divine communications are just highly advanced quantum entanglement networks. They're using entangled particles to send messages instantly across space, but the basic principles are the same as our radio waves, just incredibly more sophisticated. Engineer Hai Jin looked up from her workbench, where she had a Nexari energy device completely torn apart. "That matches what I'm seeing here. This thing they use to create their lightning effects. It's basically a miniaturized particle accelerator combined with a plasma containment field. Give me another week and I can build something better using human technology." The breakthrough moment came when Dr. Yoon Seo discovered the mathematical constants hidden in the Vorthax reality-bending demonstrations. "Everyone, look at this," she announced, projecting her findings for all to see. When they fold space, they're manipulating dimensional membranes using specific frequency resonances. It's like they're playing the universe like a musical instrument. Minho nodded, adding his own discoveries to the display. And the Eternals' time perception isn't supernatural either. They've enhanced their neural processing speeds by thousands of times normal. They don't actually see the future. They just think fast enough to calculate probable outcomes in real time. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, something unprecedented was happening. Human research broadcasts transmitted openly on all channels were being received by countless species who had lived under Dominion rule for millennia. On the desert world of Kereth, a young scientist named Zek Thar huddled in his underground laboratory, listening to human transmissions through a jury-rigged receiver. His six-armed form trembled with excitement as Dr. Minho's voice explained the scientific principles Behind what his people had always believed were divine miracles. "By the ancient stones," Zekthar whispered to himself. "They're right. The patterns are all there. The god's lightning follows the same energy dispersal patterns as our electrical storms. Similar scenes played out across dozens of worlds." On the aquatic planet Nereus, the dolphin-like Aquarians began questioning why their god's water manipulation followed the same fluid dynamics as natural currents. The insectoid Chitauri of Hive World Prime started analyzing the mathematical sequences in the Eternal's time predictions. Back on the human research station, engineer Haya Jin made the discovery that would change everything. She had spent days rebuilding the Nexari energy device from scratch, improving on their design with human innovations. "Captain Jinwoo, you need to get down here right now," she called over the comm system, her voice barely containing her excitement. Jinwoo arrived to find Hye Jin standing before a device that looked like a cross between a lightning rod and a quantum computer. Her engineering team surrounded her, their faces glowing with anticipation. "Watch this," Hye Jin said, activating her creation. The device hummed to life, and suddenly brilliant arcs of controlled energy danced between her fingers, exactly like the divine lightning Nexus Prime had demonstrated weeks ago. "How?" Jinwoo asked, amazed. "Simple quantum field manipulation channeled through a modified plasma containment matrix," Hye Jin explained proudly. "The Nexari's version is elegant, but ours is more efficient. We're using human fusion technology combined with their crystalline focusing arrays." The celebration was interrupted by an urgent alert from So Young in the communications center. "Captain, incoming transmission from Nexus Prime. He sounds absolutely furious." The holographic figure of the Nexari leader materialized in the lab, his energy form crackling with barely contained rage. "Heretics, you dare mock the power of the gods with your primitive toys?" Jinwoo stepped forward calmly, still holding Hye Jin's device. "We're not mocking anyone, Nexus Prime. We're trying to understand the incredible achievements of your people. Your energy manipulation technology is thousands of years ahead of ours. We're simply learning from your example." "Learning?" "Nexus." Prime's voice rose to a dangerous pitch. "You reduce divine power to mere science?" "Science is how we understand the universe," Jinwoo replied gently. "Your people have achieved incredible things. Isn't knowledge something to be celebrated and shared? Wouldn't the galaxy be better if everyone could benefit from these discoveries?" The question hit Nexus Prime like a physical blow. For the first time in millennia, someone was suggesting that the Dominion's power should be understood rather than feared, shared rather than hoarded. Dr. Minho added quietly, "On Earth, we have a tradition of peer review. When someone makes a discovery, other scientists study it, test it, and build upon it. That's how knowledge grows. That's how civilizations advance." Nexus Prime's form flickered, his confidence shaken. Around the galaxy, his fellow gods were receiving similar reports. Species that had worshipped them for thousands of years were suddenly asking uncomfortable questions, conducting experiments, and, most terrifyingly, finding answers. The age of unquestioned divine authority was coming to an end, one scientific discovery at a time. 6 months after first contact, human research stations dotted the galaxy like stars in the night sky. Each facility broadcast continuously on open channels, sharing every discovery with anyone willing to listen. The Horizon's Edge had become the flagship of humanity's greatest adventure, turning the unknown into the understood. Dr. Minho stood before a massive holographic display in the main research hub, now stationed in orbit around the twin suns of the Centauri system. His team had grown from a handful of Earth scientists to include researchers from 17 different species, all working together to unravel the mysteries of divine technology. Publishing the complete analysis now, Minho announced as he uploaded another research paper to the Galactic Network. Anyone in the galaxy can now build their own Nexari energy manipulator using basic fusion technology and crystalline matrices. The impact was immediate and catastrophic for the Celestial Dominion. On the industrial world of Ferox Prime, the bear-like Ursinian workers had built crude but effective copies of Nexari lightning generators. Instead of cowering before their god's energy displays, they now created their own light shows that were even more spectacular. Engineer Hyejin emerged from her workshop covered in quantum residue, her face glowing with triumph. Behind her, space itself seemed to ripple and bend around a strange mechanical device that hummed with barely contained power. "Captain Jinwoo," she called out, practically bouncing with excitement, "you have to see what we've accomplished. We've not just copied Vorthak space-bending technology, we've improved it." Jinwoo hurried over, followed by half the research station crew. The device Hyejin had built looked like a cross between a tuning fork and a particle accelerator, with crystalline components that definitely hadn't come from any human factory. "Watch this," Hyejin said, activating her creation. The air around the device began to shimmer, and suddenly a section of the laboratory wall seemed to fold in on itself, creating a perfect window to the stars outside, except they were looking through the outer hull of the station. "How is that possible?" gasped Dr. Yunseo, reaching toward the impossible opening. "Simple dimensional membrane manipulation," Hyejin explained proudly. "The Vorthak create small tears in space-time and fold reality through higher dimensions. But their method is incredibly energy-intensive. We're using quantum tunneling effects combined with gravitational field manipulation. Our version uses 90% less power and creates more stable portals." Communications Officer So Young rushed into the lab, her portable scanner beeping frantically. "Captain, you need to hear this. I've been monitoring Dominion internal communications, and they're in complete chaos." She activated her recording device, and the lab filled with panicked alien voices speaking in the musical tones of the Vorthak language. "Translation coming through now," So Young said as her computer processed the alien speech. "They're reporting massive uprisings across their territory. The Aquarians of Nereus have figured out how to manipulate water using electromagnetic fields. The Chitauri hive minds are predicting future events using human-designed quantum computers. And get this, the rock creatures of Granite 7 have built their own time perception enhancers." Jinwoo shook his head in amazement. "All of this from sharing knowledge freely." "It gets better," So Young continued. 3 separate Dominion patrol fleets have requested asylum with human research stations. Apparently, younger members of the God species are fascinated by our scientific methods and want to learn more. The situation was spiraling beyond anyone's control. On the crystalline world of Prism, the light-being inhabitants had always worshipped the Vorthak's reality-bending abilities. Now they were using human-taught physics to create their own dimensional portals, turning their planet into a hub of interdimensional research. The aquatic merfolk of Ocean's Deep had spent millennia offering tribute to the Eternal's time site. Now they were building quantum prediction engines that could calculate weather patterns centuries in advance, making their gods' prophecies seem crude by comparison. Most shocking of all, on the desert world of Kereth, young scientist Zekthar had successfully replicated Nexari energy manipulation using nothing but scavenged parts and human technical manuals downloaded from the Galactic network. "Look what I've built," Zekthar broadcast proudly to the human research station, his 6 arms holding a device that crackled with controlled lightning. The gods claimed this power was theirs alone, but now every Kerethian child can create divine fire. The breaking point came when Dr. Minho published his most devastating research paper yet, Comparative Analysis of Alleged Divine Abilities versus Natural Physical Phenomena. The document, freely available to anyone in the galaxy, proved conclusively that every single miracle performed by the Celestial Dominion could be explained, understood, and replicated using advanced but entirely natural technology. Within hours of publication, rebellions erupted across 12 star systems simultaneously, deep in the heart of Dominion space. In a massive fortress that existed partially outside normal reality, the 3 god species met for the first time in over 1,000 years. The chamber was filled with tension as Nexus Prime, Vorthak Supreme, and the Eternal Hierarch faced the collapse of their empire. "This is intolerable," Nexus Prime raged, his energy form crackling with barely controlled fury. "Inferior species dare to question our divine nature?" Vorthak Supreme's crystalline form shifted through angry colors. They've turned our subjects into rebels. Worlds that have worshipped us for millennia now mock our power with crude imitations. The eternal hierarch, ancient beyond measure, spoke with the weight of eons. I have seen many possible futures, but never one where mortals would dare to understand us. The humans, Nexus Prime spat. They've infected the entire galaxy with their cursed curiosity. They treat our miracles like puzzles to be solved. Worse, added Vorthak Supreme, they're succeeding. Their copies of our technology are becoming more efficient than our own. Through the chamber's reality-warped windows, they could see distant explosions as another Dominion patrol fleet fell to rebels armed with human-designed weapons that used the God's own principles against them. The eternal hierarch raised one ancient hand. There is only one solution. We must destroy them completely before their questions corrupt what remains of our empire. Agreed, Vorthak Supreme declared, his form solidifying with grim determination. We will gather every ship, every weapon, every scrap of power we possess. Nexus Prime's energy blazed brighter. The humans want to understand the universe. Let them understand what happens to mortals who dare challenge gods. But even as they planned humanity's destruction, none of The three ancient beings noticed the small recording device hidden in their chamber, placed there by a young Nexari engineer who had been listening to human broadcasts about the scientific method and had begun asking questions of his own. The gods' secret meeting was already being transmitted across the galaxy, and the rebels were ready. The war fleet that emerged from hyperspace was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. 10,000 ships stretched across the void, each one crackling with the terrible power of the celestial dominion. Nexari vessels pulsed with contained lightning storms, their hulls writhing with liquid metal that seemed alive. Vorthak battleships flickered in and out of reality, phasing through dimensions as they advanced. The Eternal Fleet moved with perfect coordination, their crews seeing every possible battle outcome before it happened. At the center of this divine armada flew the Godslayer Nexus Prime's personal dreadnought. The massive ship was more energy than matter, its form constantly shifting between states of plasma and solid crystalline structures. When it fired its weapons, entire asteroid fields simply ceased to exist. Captain Jinwoo stood on the bridge of the Unity, humanity's new flagship built in the shipyards orbiting Alpha Centauri. Around him, his crew worked with calm efficiency despite facing impossible odds. Enemy fleet approaching at sublight speed, reported Navigator Dongmin. Estimated time to weapons range, 47 minutes. Sir, called out Tactical Officer Jae-sung, our sensors are detecting massive energy buildups across their entire fleet. They're preparing to fire everything they have at once. But Jinwoo wasn't looking at the God fleet anymore. His attention was focused on the space behind them, where reality itself began to shimmer and bend. The first ship to emerge from the dimensional portal was Kerith's Pride. Its hull covered in energy patterns that matched Nexari designs, but somehow burned brighter. Captain Zekthar's six-armed form appeared on the communication screen, his mandibles clicking with excitement. "Greetings, human friends," Zekthar announced. "The children of Kerith stand with you. We bring 40 ships armed with improved divine lightning technology." More portals opened across space. The graceful vessels of the Aquarian fleet emerged from folded space, their bioorganic hulls rippling with electromagnetic fields that could manipulate matter at the molecular level. The insectoid Chitauri arrived in perfect geometric formations, their hive mind ships buzzing with quantum prediction engines that made the Eternal's time sight look primitive. "By the stars," whispered Dr. Minho from his science station. "They've all improved on the original God technologies. Even the peaceful Molians had joined the battle. Their crystalline ships, once used only for meditation and art, now bristled with temporal displacement weapons that could slow enemy projectiles to a crawl while accelerating their own attacks." Engineer Hyojin's voice crackled over the intercom from the engine room. "Captain, all systems are online. Our hybrid shields are holding steady, and the new weapon systems are ready for combat." The human fleet had grown beyond anyone's imagination. Research stations had become battleships, exploration vessels had been upgraded with reality-bending weapons, and cargo haulers now carried dimensional portal generators. Every ship was a testament to what happened when knowledge was shared freely instead of hoarded by false gods. Communications Officer. So Young looked up from her station with amazement. Captain, I'm receiving battle coordination data from over 300 different species. They're all using human communication protocols, but they've enhanced them with technologies from across the galaxy. The space between the two fleets filled with smaller craft as the battle lines formed. Zephyrian fighters that could phase through enemy shields, Granite 7 mining ships converted into mobile fortresses, and even the tiny scout vessels of the mushroom-like spore folk, armed with biological weapons that could disable god technology. From the inside, then came the transmission that changed everything. Incoming message from the Dominion fleet, So Young announced. It's not from the command ship. The holographic display flickered to life, showing not the ancient god leaders but a young Nexari, whose energy form pulsed with uncertainty. Human Vessel Unity. This is Engineer Nex of the Nexari Research Division. We need to speak with you. Jinwoo stepped forward. This is Captain Jinwoo. What can we do for you, Engineer Nex? Many of us have been listening to your broadcasts, Nex continued, his voice barely above a whisper. Your scientific methods, your willingness to share knowledge, it's everything we've wanted, but were forbidden to pursue. More transmissions began flooding in from across the Dominion fleet, young Vorthak scientists wanting to understand dimensional theory beyond what their elders taught. Eternal researchers, fascinated by human quantum computing techniques. Even maintenance crews asking for technical manuals to improve their own equipment. We're ready to fight if we have to, Jinwoo announced on an open channel that reached both fleets. But we'd rather learn together. Science grows when we share it, not when we hoard it. The response from Nexus Prime was immediate and furious. The Godslayer surged forward, its weapons charging to levels that could crack planets. Heretics, Nexus Prime's voice boomed across space. You have corrupted our people with your poisonous questions. This ends now. The first salvo from the God Fleet was devastating. Beams of pure energy that could atomize asteroids, reality-warping projectiles that deleted sections of space, and temporal weapons that tried to erase their targets from history itself. But the Allied fleet was ready. Hyejin's hybrid shields absorbed the energy attacks and converted them into power for the defense grid. Carethian vessels used improved lightning generators to create interference patterns that disrupted the Vorthak reality weapons. The Chitauri hive mind predicted every temporal attack and moved their ships away before the weapons could find their targets. Return fire, Jinwoo ordered calmly. What followed was the most spectacular battle in galactic history, human railguns firing projectiles accelerated by Nexari energy fields, Aquarian bioships releasing clouds of electromagnetic plasma that disabled entire squadrons of enemy vessels, Molian temporal cannons that aged enemy armor until it crumbled to dust. But the most effective weapons were the messages still broadcasting from the Allied fleet. Technical specifications, scientific principles, and research data transmitted on open channels for anyone to receive. Across the Dominion fleet, younger crew members began questioning their orders. Why destroy knowledge instead of learning from it? Why maintain ignorance when understanding was possible? Engineer Nex made his choice. His ship broke formation and joined the Allied fleet, followed by dozens of others. The Great Revelation had begun. The god species themselves were abandoning their leaders in favor of science and truth. Nexus Prime's rage reached cosmic proportions, but for the first time in millennia, his own people were no longer listening. The show, Age of False Gods, was ending, one converted ship at a time. The final confrontation began at humanity's doorstep. Earth hung like a blue jewel in the void, surrounded by the most diverse defense fleet the galaxy had ever assembled. The Unity led the formation, its hull gleaming with hybrid technologies that combined the best innovations from dozens of species. Captain Jinwoo stood on the bridge, watching as the remnants of the Celestial Dominion's fleet emerged from hyperspace. Only 300 ships remained of their once mighty armada, but these were the most powerful vessels the god species had ever built. At their center flew the Divine Wrath, a massive construct that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. They're desperate now, observed Dr. Minho from his science station. Energy readings are off the charts. They're pushing their technology beyond safe limits. Engineer Hyejin's voice crackled over the intercom from the engine room. Captain, they're charging some kind of planet-killer weapon. If that thing fires at full power, it could crack Earth's crust. But the defense fleet wasn't just human anymore. Carethian battleships flanked the human vessels, their improved energy weapons, creating brilliant light shows as they powered up. Aquarian bioships undulated through space like living creatures, their electromagnetic fields already beginning to interfere with Dominion targeting systems. The insectoid Chitauri had formed perfect geometric patterns around Earth's moon, their hive-mind coordination allowing them to act as a single massive organism. Even the peaceful mushroom folk of Spore World had arrived, their organic ships releasing clouds of microscopic organisms designed to disable God technology at the molecular level. Incoming transmission from the Dominion flagship, announced. Communications officer So Young. It's all three of them together. The bridge filled with the combined presence of Nexus Prime, Vorthak Supreme, and the Eternal Hierarch. But they looked different now. Older, more desperate, their divine confidence cracked and crumbling. Humans, Nexus Prime began, his energy, form flickering with instability. You have destroyed everything we built over 10,000 years, our empire, our authority, our very identity as gods. We offered you knowledge, Jinwu replied calmly. We offered to learn together. You chose war instead. Vorthak Supreme's crystalline form shifted through angry colors. You turned our own people against us. They question everything now, demand explanations for powers that should simply be obeyed. Questions aren't dangerous, Dr. Minho interjected. Ignorance is what's dangerous. Your own people are discovering that they are capable of so much more than you ever allowed them to be. The Eternal Hierarch spoke with the weight of eons, but his voice carried a note of uncertainty that had never been there before. I have seen countless futures, but I cannot see beyond this moment. Your chaotic human thinking has made prediction impossible. Maybe that's a good thing, Jinwu suggested. Maybe the future should be something we build together, not something predetermined by ancient powers. The battle began with fury, unlike anything the galaxy had witnessed. The Dominion fleet unleashed everything they had. Reality-warping missiles that tried to delete sections of the defense fleet from existence, temporal weapons that attempted to age ships into dust, and energy beams that burned with the fury of dying stars. But the Allied fleet was ready. Hyejin's quantum cascade generators absorbed the god weapon's energy and redirected it back at their attackers. Dr. Minho's dimensional stabilizers created pockets of locked space-time that the Vorthak's reality bending couldn't penetrate. Most importantly, the diverse alliance fought with a coordination that the ancient gods couldn't predict or counter. Carethian energy manipulators worked in harmony with Aquarian biotechnology. Chitauri quantum computers calculated battle strategies faster than even eternal time perception could follow. Their formation is breaking apart, reported Navigator Dongmin. Half their fleet is trying to retreat, but the other half is still fighting. Then came the transmission that changed everything. It wasn't from the god leaders, but from younger members of their own species who had been watching the battle with growing horror. Captain Jinwu, the message began. This is Keth, of the Nexari Engineering Corps, Vorth of the Vorthak Research Division, and Tem of the Eternal Academy. We can't watch this destruction continue. 3 young aliens appeared on the communication screen, their faces filled with determination and hope. We've been studying your scientific methods, Keth continued. We understand now that knowledge should be shared, not hoarded. And we want to learn, added Vorth, her crystalline form pulsing with excited energy. Really learn, not just follow ancient traditions. Tem, the youngest Eternal anyone had ever seen, nodded eagerly. The future should be something we discover, together, not something we're told to accept. Across the Dominion fleet, more ships began breaking formation, not to retreat, but to join the Allied forces. Young crew members were taking control from their ancient leaders, choosing curiosity over blind obedience. The Divine Wrath made one final, desperate attack. Its planet-killer weapon charged to maximum power, aimed directly at Earth. But as it prepared to fire, its own crew turned against their commanders. "We won't destroy worlds in the name of preserving ignorance," declared the ship's chief engineer over an open channel. The great weapon powered down, and the last symbol of the Celestial Dominion's authority went dark. 3 months later, Captain Nuor Jinwoo walked through the corridors of the newly constructed Galactic Science Council, located in neutral space between human and former Dominion territory. The massive station buzzed with activity as representatives from hundreds of species worked together on joint research projects. In the main auditorium, Dr. Minho was presenting the latest breakthrough in dimensional physics, developed through collaboration between human scientists and former god species researchers. The audience included beings from across the galaxy, all taking notes and asking questions. "The quantum resonance patterns we've discovered," Minho explained, "suggest that space-time itself might be far more malleable than we ever imagined. With proper cooperation between Vorthak dimensional specialists and human quantum engineers, we might be able to create stable wormholes for instantaneous travel." In the front row, taking detailed notes like an eager student, sat the being formerly known as Nexus Prime. He had chosen a new name, simply Nex, and spent his days learning alongside the species he had once ruled. Engineer Haye Jin had established the Integrated Technology Academy on a nearby asteroid, where Nexari energy manipulation, Vorthak reality bending, and eternal temporal mechanics were taught alongside human innovation and the unique contributions of dozens of other species. The waiting list for admission stretched for years. Communications Officer So Young approached Jinwoo with a smile. "Captain, we're receiving reports from across the galaxy. Former Dominion worlds are establishing their own research centers. The Carethians have just announced a breakthrough in bioenergy synthesis. The Aquarians are developing new forms of sustainable technology using electromagnetic field manipulation." Jinwoo looked out through the station's massive viewport at the stars beyond. Ships from hundreds of worlds came and went, carrying knowledge instead of tribute, ideas instead of weapons. "The age of gods is over," he said quietly. "The age of exploration has truly begun." So Young nodded, watching as a group of young beings from different species worked together on a holographic display, their excited chatter filling the air. "I think the galaxy is going to be a much more interesting place." She was absolutely right. Across the stars, species who had spent millennia in enforced ignorance were now reaching toward knowledge, discovery, and truth. Ancient mysteries were being solved through cooperation and shared understanding. New technologies emerged from the combination of different perspectives and innovative thinking. The false gods had fallen, but something far greater had taken their place. A galaxy united not in fear or worship, but in the endless pursuit of understanding the universe they all shared. In research labs and academies across thousands of worlds, beings who had once cowered before divine authority now stood as equals, asking questions, seeking answers, and building a future limited only by their collective imagination. The universe was vast and full of wonders yet to be discovered, and for the first time in galactic history, everyone was free to explore it together. The end.